I like these quiet intros better. I always like to give it a minute and let everyone, notice that I'm here. Oh, they've seen me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tuesday Night Chaos. Welcome to a little bit of an experiment. We're experimenting today. I thought I had more of a show planned for each and every one of you, but it seemed to kind of fall flat. And this is more of an experiment to see, or at least, if not an experiment, just a way to reach out to the people who only can see us on Tuesday. I know a lot of people complain about not being able to see the show live on Monday. So here we are on Tuesday and having a nice, quiet, cool little talk. Kind of like the kind you would hear on public radio. And today we talk about radishes. Because that's what they talk about on public radio, radishes, and, well, right now it's the election season, but fuck all that noise. We don't need to hear any of that. I must say, and I always have to say this, I do get a kick out of seeing the conversation that goes on before I arrive. I always find that very interesting. And Lupacillo was asking about a cat being voiced by Jim Cummings, and it's probably true because Jim Cummings is every cat there ever was, except for Garfield. Simon DeGriff loves radishes. Fantastic. Well then, Simon, I recommend you get yourself some public television or public radio in your ear. Go to npr.org and they can help you out with all that sort of thing. Or we could talk about radishes right here. I don't know a lot about radishes, excuse me. I don't know a lot about that. I know a little bit about Brussels sprouts. We could have a discussion about Brussels sprouts. See, Brussels sprouts, they're green. And that's important to know. The sun's trying to shine in and burn me. I will not stand for it. Anyway, no, there will be no thong wearing, at least not today. I feel really bad because I thought that I had plenty to talk about this week, so I'm just going to have to go off of what you guys were talking about. How boring, right? I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. One thing I did want to talk about, which I stumbled across, I heard some retro news about a shipping box full of Bandai's stadium events for the Nintendo Entertainment System was shown. I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about, and if you don't, I don't have a thing to link to the story, unfortunately. I thought I came more prepared, but we can wax on that in a second. And then, I don't know why I thought this would be great, but I wrote down the worst dog name I'd ever heard. I knew someone who actually named their dog Michael. And I thought, man, what a fucking asshole name for a dog. That's all. Anyway, Max Johnson is a gardener? Oh, don't talk about the Bill Murray Garfield movies. That's awful. That's awful. Simon 20's cat's name is George? That's astonishing. No, not really. Well, I mean, George is better than Michael. Now, if your cat's name was George Michael, then that might be cause for concern. I'm not sure who I'd be more concerned about, you or the cat, but in any event, someone should be paying attention to this. That seems important to me. And Michael Scott said that he thinks it's a terrible name for a dog. I agree. Michael Scott would probably know that, and I'm sure he's heard this throughout his life, someone irritated with him has said from across a yard or from across the street, Michael! And it just sounds awful, doesn't it? Who would want to hear that? I know I don't. So, Michael, if that's the case, then I feel your pain. I know what you're talking about. It's awful. And especially a terrible name on a dog. Flippercillo wants to know, have I seen Infinity Runner on the eShop? I did. I watched the trailer for it, and I don't remember much about it. I just remember not really wanting to play it. Nick Canfield, who for some reason is using me as his banner photo on social media, on the Twitter, I think. Why would you do that? There's so many other things you could put, like, do like everyone else and put like Sailor Moon or something. Nah. I didn't know what to say to that, but thank you for your support. What do I think of the bands Mudvayne and Hell Yeah? I understand that they both share some of the same members, and one of them is sort of the heavy metal version of the Ringo Starr All-Star Band. I'll let you guess which one is which. You know, one of those touring acts where the least talented member of a famous band just continues on his own with some young people. You know what I'm saying? And then there's Mudvayne. I don't care for Mudvayne either. They belong to a whole large list of bands that I think just had nothing really to offer. And so they decided that they were going to do what Gwar was already doing. And Gwar had kind of stolen it from Kiss, and Kiss had stolen it from Alice Cooper, and Alice Cooper had stolen it from Screamin' Jay Hawkins. It goes way back. And you could even argue some of the shit that Desi Arnaz did influenced a lot of that. So, do I have an opinion on the Struts? Well, I find them to be much more useful than old-fashioned shock absorbers. However, they do wear out a bit faster, but provide a smoother ride. Lupacilla wants to hear a wrestling anecdote. I don't have any wrestling anecdotes or wrestling anecdotes. I will tell you something that's interesting. Yesterday, I got a moment to myself, and Mrs. Yell Chaos got us that Amazon Prime thing, and it comes with Amazon Video. And I found an old PBS special called American Experience, which I happen to enjoy that series. They have really good music. If you're ever bored and you want to watch a documentary, watch PBS American Experience. They typically have really good scoring and really good music to go along with them. Even if you're not interested in the subject matter, just listen to the tunes. It's really neat. They get some really cool composers and producers on that. But anyway, it was an American Experience documenting, sort of the life of Walt Disney. And it was weird because I saw, and I've heard this before, that Vince McMahon considers himself the Walt Disney of professional wrestling, or other people have. And just to see the caveats and how their lives kind of mirrored each other was kind of spooky and interesting and revolting. So if you want to learn something and feel the way I did, then I recommend you read a little bit about Vince McMahon, and then you watch something about Walt Disney, and just try and contrast and compare. It's very interesting. So that's your anecdote for today. It's no punchline, just a really cute story. Let me see here. Everybody's asking me about Razorfist. I haven't talked to Razorfist in a while. I guess he's a busy guy these days. And I did not see him on Vince Russo. I didn't know Vince Russo. You mean on YouTube? I didn't know Vince Russo was here. I figured he was. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Simon DeGriff, am I excited about Star Fox Zero? Yes, very much so. Very much so. I'm actually, as strange as this might sound, I'm excited for Project Guard. I think that's a really interesting game mechanic. I'm not sure how much of a game you can squeeze out of such a game mechanic, but I've seen Nintendo squeeze a lot out of the just breakout format. And I think that's important to note. People never want to talk about Nintendo's mini games. They are the one of, if not the best on planet Earth makers of mini games. And that's not even considering the mini games that Intelligent Systems is known for making. I'm just talking about entertainment software development. No one ever wants to talk about mini games. Mini games are good too. There's a town in the middle of the desert that makes billions a year off of mini games. Do I think that Zack Ryder is going to win the Intercontinental titles? I didn't realize Zack Ryder still worked there. Probably not. Michael Scott wants to know what I think about the NX rumors. The Nintendo NX rumors, I'll say the same thing I said last week. I don't deal in rumors. I kind of have this problem with people dealing in rumors. There's entire YouTube videos, entire YouTube channels based on just dealing in rumor. And I got to think, to legitimate journalists, people who are actually in the industry and actually cover this stuff, this must look like a bunch of monkeys jerking off in a field. Just salivating over false information for the sake of doing so. And it's no surprise that it comes from these channels that are largely just billboards. That's all they do. They have no integrity. They have nothing really to say. They just take press releases that come from Nintendo of America and Electronic Arts and whoever and just regurgitate it. And then they have nice, fancy, they got real high def images so you can see all the hairs in their beard. And that's why I try not to, I don't mean to, like shit on your question, but I don't deal in that sort of thing. It's just so murky and I don't care to talk about it. But once any official information comes out, we'll talk about it plenty. I can't wait. But I just think it's a waste of energy to sit and just beat off to a bunch of statistics and specifications that will ultimately be proven false, or at least most of it. So, Lone Wolf Warrior 93 wants to know what I think of Puck End Tournament. I'm intrigued by Puck End Tournament. I think it's very colorful. It's beautiful. I haven't played it yet. I haven't got a chance to have hands-on with it yet. But I've seen a few people. I've seen a lot of people actually. I've been watching videos and I've seen a few things, and even live. It looks very interesting, and I don't know. Gives me a new reason to give a shit about Pokemon. Max Johnson apparently has a problem with Metal Jesus Rocks. You stopped watching him because of the cockamamie trip across the country and whatever? Why? Why would you deprive yourself of free entertainment because somebody, it was a stupid thing to do, I think. It's none of my business. I didn't have the balls to go through with it. But why would you turn off a stream of free entertainment? I don't understand. Have I talked to Silent Rob? No, I have not. I shot Silent Rob a text message a while back. I can't remember how far back. And he didn't say anything back to me. Maybe he got a different phone or something. I don't know. No support to Metal Jesus country trip but he started censoring comments. Okay, I'm still lost. I'm confused with what that has to do with anything. It's anybody's right to censor comments. I don't see what's so nefarious about it. Excuse me. Pardon me. Had to let in the cat. Cat was scratching at the door. Nick Canfield wants to know if I'm still drinking out of that big ass glass. Yes, I am. This is my big ass glass. Is that all you wanted to know? Lupacillo says he spent $23 on some Sega arcade games this afternoon. My God, how long did that take? Goodness gracious, $23? Whew. You must have went to GameWorks or something. When can you watch Mrs. Yell Chaos dominate at Sonic 3? I don't know. I'm trying to think, is she good at Sonic 3? I'll have to ask her. I know she likes Sonic 3. I can't remember. No, the Hate Bit podcast is not dead. Not that I'm aware. No one's brought that to my attention. It's just like I said, a difference of scheduling. And Alpha Omega Sin said that we're going to get together real soon as he's available, and all that sort of thing. It gets harder and harder as you get older, or I shouldn't say older, but as your schedule gets more complicated, it's harder and harder to on a regular basis. And I know it's been a long time, but on a regular basis, be able to have these 3-hour blocks and so forth. Having 4 and 5 people have that kind of time. It's I never believed that it would come to that. It would be so hard, but apparently it is. Nick Canfield wants to know why I'm not on the goddamn Periscope anymore. I'm not on the Periscope any. I don't know. I go looking on there, and it's just a bunch of fucking morons just ask me questions. Well, who the fuck are you? I'm Pablo from Chino, California. Like, who cares? What's that? Ew. Mrs. Okay, sent me a funny picture. So yeah, every time I go on the Periscope, it's just assholes like rolling blunts. Like that's the title of the live stream, rolling blunts. Oh fuck, man. And all they're doing is they're just staring at their phone while they're rolling blunts. Like, wow, that's class A entertainment if I've ever seen it. So. Oh, Retro Unlim is plugging the one time I was on their program. Yeah, we did anybody else see that? I tried to get everybody to watch that. That was myself and Alpha Omega Sin. We're on the Retro Unlim podcast thing, and excuse me. All right, excuse me. Lupacillo, can we get some music someday? Yes, I am working on music. I just can't seem to figure out what I want to do. um, but yes, eventually. I kind of stumbled over that question, didn't I? Yes, eventually. Um, eventually. What? The cat's meowing at me. What? You jerk. Being very impertinent today. Let me see here. And Tritonbites is here, and he says that he and I have not spat shit. Well, I'm not sure how to respond to that, Sprites. I guess it has. Well, say hello to me next time you see me on Skype or whatever. Um, Nick Canfield wants to know my thoughts and Mrs. Yokaos about Yoshi's Woolly World. I feel so guilty. Yoshi's Woolly World is sitting in the case directly across from me, and it is still sealed. So it's has much value. It's retaining its value. So I have not gotten around to playing that one. We and her and I, she and I, we're hooked on Shovel Knight right now. Actually, the three games that are taking up a lot of time in this house are the Mario Maker, Super Mario All Stars, and the Shovel Knight. Great stuff over there on the Wii U. Really good. Really, really good. So that's why we haven't gotten around to Yoshi's Woolly World yet. I know. I'm sorry. I'm ashamed. But what can you do? Will there ever be a television gaming network again? No. 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 There might be in some capacity, but it'll be short lived. Mostly because it's so cheap to put things on TV now. I think because there seems to be a show for everything. I maybe in a small capacity, but I don't think it'd be a large venture. Any large company would get involved with it. That's what everyone said. That Yoshi's Woolly World is great. It's like it has to be better than fucking Mario Tennis on the Wii U. Jesus Christ. I'm still kind of pissed off about that. And it's all shit that they could totally fix by way of DLC, or they could have released the game in pieces like they did with Splatoon. But did they do that? No, they didn't do that. Why didn't they do that? I don't fucking know. I haven't the vaguest idea. It could have been like that. Look how Splatoon was released. They could have done that. Mario Tennis on the Wii U. It's not a bad game, okay? It's not a bad game, but it's a game. It's a $15 game, not a $50 game. I'm still bummed out about that. Oh goodness. Fresh Vice wants to know where am I up to on the Shovel Knight? I don't remember. I beat. Shoot, we're in the water. We're in the level with the water. I can't remember that. Because there's the King Knight and the Plague Knight and all that. I can't remember where exactly I am, but the one with the water. and we're gonna pick that up again tonight. That's what I understand. So, but it's a great game, and so many people were talking up the soundtrack for the longest time, and I said, well, it's okay. But now the longer you listen, it's like, you know what? It's one of those that you don't mind that it loops over and over again, and that's hard to do. So hats off to Jake Kaufman, the I guess the composer that did that work. I wish I could do work like that. One day I will. One day somebody is going to be dumb enough to ask me to do the music for their video game. And God help them. Nick Canfield wants to know if it's bad that he watches the Chaos live, which I guess is me right now, and he touches himself by doing so. That's not for me to decide. That's for you and only you. Only your Undertaker knows for sure. Gus Bus wants to know my favorite Marvel character. My favorite Marvel character has always been the Punisher. And since I know quite a bit about both Punishers, well, actually, there's been a few, depending on how you want to look at the 2099s and all that stuff. But the two most prominent, Jake Gallows and Frank Castle, I understand enough why they don't work in movies. I hear that the Punisher is on the Daredevil show on Netflix. I haven't looked into that really. I don't have time. I have other programs that I like to watch, like shit about Walt Disney, for instance, on PBS. God, there was just an explosion in the comment section. Sorry if I fell away there. Something caught my eye. Anyway, but I understand why the Punisher doesn't work in film. He's an anti-hero, and anti-heroes that don't sing or dance or tell jokes usually kind of, they usually kind of fall away. And the Punisher is an example. The only reason, because realistically, comic books as an art form, as literature, literature sells differently. Those characters, dark, brooding characters, do better on paper than they do on film. Notice the mixed success of Batman on the silver screen. So, but that's who I go for immediately as a Punisher, just because those things, they're so technical. A lot of them, not all of them. Is Sonic the Hedgehog's reputation ruined for life? I don't know that he really has all that strong of a reputation to begin with. I think that at this stage he just kind of melts into the background in terms of all the colorful mascots of, not just, excuse me. This goddamn cat today. I don't know what it is. Sonic the Hedgehog, yeah, he seems to just melt into the background of all the other mascots that are available for children to consume. Because Charlie Brown and the Peanuts gang, they're all still around. And Sonic the Hedgehog, it's just, other bland characters that no one really notices. Just another face on the toy shelf. So I don't know that they have, as far as video games, yes, Sonic the Hedgehog is doomed, and it's not because, and it's not like Howard Dean, how like one thing fucked him up. It's like, this is, when you look at all the high points and the low points of the Sonic the Hedgehog series as it pertains to video games, just as video games. You look at, disappointment after disappointment here and there and, across all these different platforms, and you start to realize that Sonic the Hedgehog is not in a slump, not in a short losing streak, but this many disappointments in a row over such a span of time, that's not a slump. That's a tradition. And that's when you got to know when to just give it up. Sonic the Hedgehog needs to go away for a while and figure out what he needs to do. There doesn't need to, Sonic the Hedgehog, to me, don't get me wrong, I like some of the Sonic the Hedgehog games very much. But Sonic the Hedgehog to me was, very much obviously a logo put into a real world scenario, a logo that had to work for what he did. But really, all he was a mascot, a logo. I always look at, it kind of makes me think of the cool Spot from 7 Up. The round thing with the round red thing with the sunglasses. It always made me think of that. That's the way I felt about it. And you can argue with me on that if you want, but I really think that Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't think that there's a. I don't want to make it seem like it's about chasing the numbers and all that. I just think that they have proven that there's not much more they can do with Sonic the Hedgehog. He can't even be a tennis referee. Come on. Rayman Legends is what Sonic aspires to be. Oh, geez. I don't think that those characters are diverse enough to go through what Rayman Legends is. Rayman Legends is just, geez, such a masterpiece as far as platforming. Right up there with some of the greatest, up there with Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario Brothers. Just a fantastic piece, and it's really great on the Wii U, I have to say that. Whenever I see someone has on a PS3, it's like, I have to say. Hi, cat. A good superhero game. We're talking about the X-Men arcade game. It's funny. I'm glad the pilot brought that up because one time I was lucky enough to play the 6-man version of that game at a place in Henderson, Nevada, just outside of Las Vegas, called High Scores. High Scores. What are you doing? No. Don't eat the plastic. Damn animals. Hey, what did I say? Don't eat the plastic. See, now I can get a show on Animal Planet. Oh, man. So anyway, what's always interesting, here's something that I want to know. There's so many people in this in the chat box that have all these quotes ready to go, and I wonder, do you have them like chiseled in stone and then hanging on your wall? Because it's just the instant recall of all these old quotes from shows from years ago. I'm astonished in how you do that. That's amazing to me. I will not sing the intro to the Jeffersons because, well, I'd get a copyright strike because I don't own that song. Now everyone's cutting a promo for the PlayStation Vita. The PlayStation Vita is a great system. It's like, yeah, it's a great system. Too bad it's dead. It's a real shame. I'm not gonna kick the PlayStation Vita anymore. That's, what can you do? What can you really do? Lawson Lee wants to know, how do I feel about racing games? I love racing games. I love good racing games. I love bad racing games. One of my favorite racing games that immediately springs to mind is Virtua Racing in the arcade by Sega. Virtua Racing was, I don't know if it was the first of its kind to feature polygonal shapes. Some heard it polygonal, sometimes heard polygonal, but to feature those kind of shapes in that 3D perspective, and kind of laid the groundwork for Daytona and a lot of those other Sega racing games. But I love virtual racing, and I love Daytona. I even love Sega's Indy 500. I used to operate an Indy 500. Have you ever been to a GameWorks or a large entertainment center? They have the Sega Indy 500 with the motion-based, what do they call them? Environmental cabinets, and the cars move and the whole thing. I got to operate one of those for a few years when I worked for GameWorks. So I always have fond memories of that. But I like a lot of racing games. I even like those shitty IndyCar games on the Super Nintendo. Like, was it Nigel Mansell presents Newman Haas Indy Racing, blah, 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 blah. And they're supposed to be sim games, but, they were a little arcadey because they were on the Super Nintendo. Retro on Limb says Virtua Soccer. I never played Virtua Soccer. I am a big fan of Virtua Golf. I'm sure I've said that in the past. I'm a big fan of Virtua Golf. What are we celebrating 20 years of the N64 already? It hasn't been that long. That's not till September. Come on. It's like, well, it was bound to happen. If you keep waiting, anniversaries tend to come. My favorite N64 title. Oh, goodness gracious. If I just had to pull one off the top of my head, I would say Wave Race 64. Wave Race 64, I think, is great because it is probably the best in its series. And it would probably be Wave Race 64 or F-Zero X. But I think I lean towards Wave Race 64 because it is the best in its series and definitely helps the N64 shine. Cliff Fitter wants to know, do I prefer 3D animated Disney movies or the 2D ones? That depends. That depends on what really helps the story along. I think it doesn't really matter as long as, it suits the style. For instance, Chicken Little was fucking garbage in 3D. And not just garbage, but garbage in 3D. And The Princess and the Frog, sort of almost traditionally animated film, was quite fun. Not great, but it was fun. And I heard good things about Zootopia. I've heard really good things. So, Express Bias wants to know the worst zombie movie I've ever seen. Resident Evil. Yes, all of them. Sigma Sean wants to know my favorite year in gaming. Oh, gosh. I really don't know because I am proud that I was accidentally one of the early retro gamers in the 90s because we were broke. So, all the video games that no one cared about just kind of tumbled towards me. I can't really nail down a year. Do I have a favorite Mega Man X game? No, I don't, actually. I've only played 2 of those. I played Mega Man X and Mega Man X7, I think. I think that's which one it was. And they're fine. I'm not a huge fan of those, unfortunately. Pro wrestlers versus zombies. Wow. Okay, I'll look into that, Sprites. Thank you for that recommendation. Pro wrestlers versus zombies. That's a okay. What do I think of Hardcore Henry, the first person movie that's coming out? I'm not familiar with Hardcore Henry. I don't have any thoughts. Nick Campy wants to know, did I ever obtain a copy of Uniracer? No, not yet. Not yet. I will. I will. I happen to enjoy that game. Surprising says that he wants to get a movie called Zombie Nightmare. He's a big fan of terrible zombie movies. I'm actually a fan of great zombie movies. Um, for instance, I'm a big fan of George Romero's work, particularly the Unholy Trio, which is the Night of the Living Dead, the Dawn of the Dead, and the Day of the Dead. And I am of the mind that Day of the Dead it's almost a touching film in its own way. Um, but that's interesting. That's interesting. Lupacilla wants to know, is Wisconsin cheese overrated? No, not at all. Well, that depends. If you go to Wisconsin and you ask people about the cheese, then yes, it's very overrated. Akamesh wants to know my opinion of The Wrestler. Do you mean the Mickey Rourke movie? Fuck that shit. I hate the way that movie is such a product of its time. I hate the way it's shot. I hate the way it's lit. All the shit with the fucking staples and the fuck that movie. I hate that movie. I piss on that movie. Are there too many superhero movies? No, I don't think so. What else are they going to make movies about? Stuff that matters? Why would they do that when they could make Battleship the movie? Uh, Professors are teaching the students that games like GTA perpetrate cultural and environmental racism. I don't agree with that at all. I find that GTA is sadly one of the more honest portrayals of urban life. Now it's done in a very bawdy, glib fashion, but I don't think it perpetrates any of that. I think that it, it talks about what is central to humans, and that is and always has been and probably always will be greed. And it shows that greed has no color. I think that that's one beautiful thing you can say about GTA is that it shows that greed has no color, and it's ugly all the time. But sometimes it can be funny, like blowing up things with tanks. No, I don't see that at all. I think people who think that just have to understand that there's more to having a sense of humor than understanding the meaning of jokes. I think that you have to look at things a little lopsided occasionally, or read between the lines, as it were. And to take a video game on its nose like that, considering the trouble and the process that is involved in producing a video game, is extremely short-sighted. To take something like that so simply and glibly and right on the nose. I think that's extremely short-sighted for anyone who would dare call themselves an educator. Do I listen to any rap music? Yes. I like rap music, as long as it's good rap music. I like some Bone Thugs every now and again. I come from Southern California. There's rap here. Question: what superhero can't Ben Affleck be cast as? I hope he's never cast as Aquaman, because that would eliminate the possibility of him ever being drowned. Environmental racism implies I hate that fucking tree. Okay. I yell Chaos Junior. Why are you so interested, Nick? Why is that so important to you? And no, I don't think so. There's only one. So which means when I die, you guys can be sad and shit instead of harassing my kid to do exactly what I used to, like they used to do to David Sammartino, Bruno's son. Lupus wants to know, am I an audiophile? I'm a museophile. I don't know that I'm an audiophile. I do love sound. I guess in a way, I don't know that I'm a snob, because it seems that audiophile is used as a pejorative to mean snob, and I don't consider myself a snob. But it does kill me sometimes that I have some copies of certain music that's of very poor quality, and that's all I can do with it. That's all you can find. So anyway, interestingly enough, like, and there's it does bother me that there are certain pieces of music that I can't find in decent enough quality. It's such a shame. Like the theme from Road Avenger on the Laserdisc game Road Avenger. I would really love to hear that song or have a CD quality version of that song. So I may have to go through the trouble of just recording it myself. So that's something I hope to accomplish one of these days. So yes and no, I guess, to being an audiophile. My thoughts on Snoop Dogg being in the WWE Hall of Fame this year. Whatever. Arnold Schwarzenegger's in there. Pete Rose is in there. Drew Carey's in there. So what? What a better symbol of professional wrestling than a guy that's notorious for smoking a lot of weed. I hope they should be inducting Rob Van Dam right next to him. Following up on what Nick Jackson said, a certain black professor hates the way how blacks are only thugs and ballers. Why aren't they main protagonists? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. The same reason why aren't women? I mean, people. Why isn't Indiana Jones a woman, or why is Luke Skywalker not black? I don't know. It's just you have to understand, and I understand, and that person, whoever feels that way, doesn't understand marketing. If anybody that's the same people that will tell you, that they want equality shown in media, talk about women can do anything men can do. It's like, yeah, women can't draw crowds to see basketball. We're not talking about right or wrong. We're not talking about the way the world works. We're talking about drawing dollars in terms of entertainment. And I think that the people who make Grand Theft Auto, sure, they're gonna stand on some stereotypes. I mean, that's entertainment. That's everything. The guy walking in the background, all that sort of thing. It portrays a picture. I don't know that it's intentional, and I don't know why anyone would think that it's intentional, because segregating an audience doesn't pay. And to assume that entertainment is culture at its very front and center, I don't agree with that either. I wish we had some real experts that could discuss that, but they're kind of full of shit typically whenever you get experts on a TV show. Akamesh wants to know my thoughts on the band Moonspell. They're very sexy. Moonspell is very sexy. They come from South America, if I'm not mistaken, or they come from Portugal. Either way, very sexy. Do I think that the Wii U will eventually be regarded in the same way that the Dreamcast is today? I don't know that the Dreamcast is held in that high of a regard. I think it'll do similar to what the GameCube is doing right now. There will be maybe a little fervor. I don't know that there'll be big time game collecting in the future. I can't assume that video games cannot be preserved in the same way that baseball cards and comic books can. So, because eventually a lot of what we know as video games, our cartridges will just eventually stop working. So I don't know if I can really speculate that far in the future. But yeah, maybe. I think that the Wii U is just. I was telling this to my wife the other day. Just between the Wii U and the Wii, the cross, the backward compatibility. That's an amazing library of games. An absolute astounding library of games. There's some shit. There's lots of shit. Don't make no mistake. Every software library has some shit in it. But I will say that the Wii U has, no matter what you want to say about it, you cannot argue that it has a great software library. And Moonspell are from Portugal, and they're sexy. Nick Canfield wants to know what Mrs. Yelka has thoughts on 50 Shades of Grey. I didn't know what 50 Shades of Grey was, so I asked her. I said, darling, what's 50 Shades of Grey? And she looked at me and she said, ew. And that's all she said, and she left it at that. So I guess her thoughts are ew. Sword of King says the Dreamcast controller was terrible. I happen to agree. It's a noisy little fucker, too. Lupacillo got Kirby Return to Dreamland for $29. I still don't have Return to Dreamland on the Wii. Excuse me, I burped. I'm terribly sorry. Retro Online wants to know my most cherished piece of retro memorabilia that I own. I don't know. Memorabilia? I have a button from, I think, Power World 99, I think. Nintendo Power World 99. Which was a convention specifically for members of the Nintendo Fun Club, I think. I found a button in like Barstow, California on the way to Las Vegas once. That's the only one that springs to mind. I mean, I've got other stuff, but it depends on what you mean about memorabilia, because memorabilia, that's not video games, but it is. And I don't know. Kishiro guy says that the Wii U has a great first-party lineup and not enough third-party exclusives. What were you expecting? What are the third parties doing on the other platforms? There's no exclusives over there. There's nothing. These fucking money-grubbing publishers don't do that anymore. They're not interested in you, the customer, anymore. When people say third-party, all I ever think about is Madden and FIFA, the EA games, and because, in my opinion, Ubisoft largely shovels out high-dollar crap. And so that's why I just have to hold my stomach when I hear about their games. So I don't know what anyone really expected to get on the Wii U. The Wii U had a bunch of great ideas in it. Of course, everyone was going to ignore it. But that's, what are you going to do? Spicy Bias wants to know if I've managed to acquire every variant of the GameCube. No, not yet. No, no. Those are harder to come by than you'd think. Oh, goodness. I think that's my time, everybody. So I'm going to get out of here in just a minute. I just wanted everyone to know that. Nick Campy wants to know what I think about the PlayStation 4.5. I think that's, if I could sum it up simply, I'd say it like this: 32X. And you can argue with me on that if you want, but add-ons tend to divide an audience. Lupisil is giving me credit for eyeballs don't support 4K resolution. Did I say that? I know mine don't. Every time I see 4K resolution, I'm like, what the fuck is that? It's like it's so sharp, it's blurry again. Do I think that VR will be heading towards the same lane as motion gaming? Well, understand this. VR is going to be for a very long time and probably for its entire lifespan. Again, this is not the first time we've had VR and all that stuff pass around in tech circles. It's a rich man's hobby. And the problem with that is rich people don't have hobbies. Rich people do the things that they like to do, if that makes sense. The people who could afford this don't need this. They don't need the escapism. They can just throw around money like that. Well, I guess that might be an exaggeration, but it's a luxury item, and it's going to remain a luxury item. And the problem with catering towards a video game audience, you need mass market prices. This is only going to sell to the absolutely elite until they can get prices down. And even then, like I've said before, it's going to be like playing video games with a football helmet that has a sand weight on top of it. It's not going to break your neck, but it's going to be sitting on your head the whole time you're trying to play a game, and your peripheral will be cut off. It just doesn't seem like it's something that's going to last, or at least going to get a lot of support, or something that a lot of people are going to want in their house. You saw what happened with the Wiimotes, people flinging them through the TV set. Who knows what happens? People are going to be knocking children off of balconies and things like that. Who knows? But it's I don't know. It seems to me it's just too expensive, and it's going to make for some great YouTube videos. People fucking falling down over the TV dinner tray and shit. It's going to be great for that. So, in which case, I encourage everybody to keep your mobile phones handy. You never know, and if you get it on film, you might get it in cash. Anyway, thanks everybody very much. That's it for Tuesday Night Chaos. Thank you much. Don't forget, follow me. Check out the information down there below. Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. Please feel free. And you guys take it easy, and I'll see you next time.